There is something in you, a hunger, perhaps, or an ache that draws people toward your warmth like moths to a trembling candle. You call yourself an empath, and perhaps rightly so. You feel what others cannot name. You see through the masks, before the actor even realizes they are performing. Your heart breaks, not just for the wounded, but with them. And again, you find yourself entangled, not with the whole, but with the shattered, not with the healed, but with the haunted. And you wonder why. You think perhaps it is love, or perhaps karma, or some divine responsibility etched into your soul. But I say to you, look deeper. Look not just with your compassion, but with your shadow. For until you do, you will mistake your wounding for your wisdom. You will believe that your attraction to brokenness is virtue, but it is not virtue. It is a mirror. The empath does not merely feel others. The empath absorbs them. And in doing so, they often lose sight of their own psychic boundaries. They become a landscape where others spill. The broken find them like wolves find open wounds, and the empath, unable to bear suffering without intervening, becomes healer, mother, savior, until they are empty. But this is not sacrifice, it is pattern. A pattern rooted not in divinity, but in the unconscious. You attract what you have not yet resolved. You draw in the broken, because part of you is still breaking. You welcome the wound because part of you is still bleeding. Not consciously. No. Consciously, you want peace. You want reciprocity. You want the myth of the equal lover. But the unconscious does not care for such ideals. The unconscious cares only for integration. And it will drag you back into the labyrinths of your own unfinished business until you face the thing you buried in yourself. This is the nature of shadow. It is not evil. It is exiled. It is not dangerous because it is dark. It is dangerous because it is ignored. The empath, by nature, often refuses to look at their own rage, their own shame, their own selfishness. These qualities are incompatible with the identity they have built. The good one, the kind one, the selfless one. And so these disowned parts, the warrior, the taker, the destroyer, they go underground. They become shadow. And then they appear again, not within, but without, in the form of the narcissist, the abuser, the addict, the broken soul who takes and never gives, and the empath, caught in the trance of projection, believes it is their job to fix them. But what they are really trying to fix is their own shadow. You see, the empath and the broken are magnetized to each other because they are two halves of a split archetype. The wounded healer fragmented, the lover and the beloved divided by trauma, the caretaker and the devourer bound in psychic dance. The empath sees light in the broken soul, and they are not wrong, but they see it at the expense of the dark within themselves. They fall in love not with the person, but with a projection. And projections are not people. They are parts of you begging for reintegration. I recall a woman in analysis, a brilliant empath, who had spent decades in relationships with addicts. Every time she left, another appeared different face. A same wound. She believed it was her destiny to heal them. But it was not destiny. It was compulsion. A compulsion born from childhood, from a father she could not fix. A silence she could not break. The addict was not her lover. He was her father's ghost. Her own unprocessed grief, dressed in new clothes. And only when she faced that grief, only when she allowed herself to stop saving others and instead feel her own helplessness, did the pattern dissolve. The unconscious is not linear. It is circular. It repeats until it is resolved. You do not evolve by bypassing the wound. You evolve by walking through it, eyes open, hands trembling, soul exposed. The empath must stop trying to rescue others and begin to rescue themselves. But this is the hardest thing of all, because the empath's identity is built on usefulness, on being needed, on being the one who knows, who feels, who heals. And to let go of that, to stop giving, to stop fixing, is to risk collapse. Who are you, if not the savior? Who are you, if not the one who absorbs the pain? I will tell you who you are. You are whole. You are fire and water, light and shadow, soul and skin. You are not here to carry everyone's burden. You are here to carry your truth. And your truth is this: you have wounds, you have rage, you have needs, and until you face them, you will continue to attract mirrors instead of partners, because the shadow does not rest until it is seen. It will whisper through dreams. It will erupt in illness. It will choose your lovers for you. It will wear their face and cry your forgotten tears. And if you are brave enough to stop asking, why are they like this? And begin asking, why am I drawn to this? Then something shifts. The mirror cracks, the projection dissolves, and you begin to see the truth, not just of them, of yourself. You begin to see that every broken soul you attracted was a messenger. Every wound they opened was an echo. Every pattern was a map. And the destination was never them. It was always you. This is the revelation of shadow. That what you seek is not out there, it is within. The empath who integrates their shadow becomes sovereign, no longer bound by the compulsion to fix, no longer addicted to pain dressed as love, no longer hypnotized by the brokenness of others. They still feel deeply, but they no longer abandon themselves in the name of empathy. They become discerning, compassionate but boundaried, open but rooted, loving but free. And from this place, they attract differently. Not the broken seeking to be saved, but the whole seeking to grow. Not the hungry ghost, but the embodied soul. Not the projection, but the partner. This is possible, but it requires a descent into your own shadow. Are you willing? The descent I speak of is not metaphor. It is not poetry. It is experience. It is the moment you stop reaching for others and instead turn toward the parts of yourself you have exiled. It is not pleasant. The shadow never is. It stinks of neglect. It speaks in curses. It shows you your envy, your need to control, your desire to punish, your hunger to be seen at all costs, you say, this is not me, but it is the part of you that your goodness has denied. When an empath begins the work of reclaiming shadow, they will first meet resistance. The mind will say, but I am the loving one, the peaceful one, the safe one. And that is where the trouble began. You believed that only the light in you was worthy of expression, but the psyche is not interested in half of you. The psyche wants all of you, the sacred and the profane, the healer and the one who longs to be held, the giver and the one who wants to scream. What you suppress, you become. What you ignore, you attract. What you judge, you marry in secret. The broken souls that come to you again and again carry pieces of your own lost self. The addict is your own disowned hunger. The manipulator is your own denied need for control. The avoidant partner is your own dissociated rage. You do not attract them because you deserve suffering. You attract them because your soul is aching for wholeness. And until you bring these fragments back into the circle of your being, they will continue to knock on your door, wearing new names. There is no evil in this, only invitation to wholeness. I will tell you something I once saw in a dream. I stood on the edge of a great chasm. Across from me, another version of myself, darker, older, cloaked in shadow, stood silently. Between us, a bridge of bone. I knew that if I crossed, I could never go back. I stepped forward, ach bone echet. When I reached the other side, the shadow, me smiled, and I realized we were never separate, only estranged. Your shadow is not your enemy. It is your twin, and until you make peace with it, you will keep seeking it in others. This is the fate of the unaware empath. They become hostages to their own projections. They think they are helping, but they are reenacting. They think they are loving, but they are reliving. They confuse compassion with compulsion, empathy with enmeshment, love with self-erasure. But when you begin to retrieve your shadow, everything changes. You stop needing to be needed. You stop falling in love with pain. You stop rescuing those who have no intention of healing. And instead, you begin to choose. You begin to ask, does this relationship honor me? Does this soul see me? Or only my light? Am I safe here? Or merely useful? These questions are terrifying for the empath, because for so long, your worth has been bound to your usefulness. To stop giving, to stop bleeding for others feels like betrayal, but it is not. It is rebirth. And it is from this rebirth that you begin to encounter what I call archetypal intimacy. Archetypal intimacy is not born of trauma bonds or projection. It is not the empath savior rescuing the broken child in a lover's body. It is the meeting of two souls who have looked into their own abyss and returned bearing gifts. It is the dance of the sovereigns, not perfect, but conscious. And it is only available to the empath who has done the inner descent, who has faced the compulsion to fix and refused it, who has sat with their own brokenness and loved it back to life. So how do you begin? Not by cutting yourself off from emotion, not by building walls, but by building roots. You feel deeply, yes, but now you must feel wisely. You love completely, yes, but now You must love discerningly. You see the soul in others, yes, but now you must ask, do they see mine? The empath who reclaims their shadow becomes not less sensitive, but more sovereign. Their sensitivity no longer leaks. It radiates. It no longer absorbs poison. It alchemizes it. They become the embodiment of the archetypal healer, not because they rescue others, but because their presence reminds others of their own capacity to heal. You are not here to carry everyone. You are here to carry yourself fully, truly, until your presence becomes a mirror where others see what is possible, not through your sacrifice, but through your integrity. And yes, some will leave. Those who needed you broken will vanish when you are whole. Those who loved your giving, but not your boundaries, will retreat. Let them. The more you honor your wholeness, the more life will respond in kind. You will meet others who do not fear your strength. You will laugh without disappearing. You will serve without losing yourself. You will give from overflow, not from emptiness. And you will say, finally, that the pattern is broken because you are no longer broken. You have become the one you needed, and now you attract, not from wound, but from truth, not from shadow, but from soul. The soul, once it begins to remember itself, cannot return to sleep. And this remembering for the empath is not merely an awakening, it is a reckoning. Because to truly awaken is not to float above suffering, but to meet it precisely where it lives, in the marrow of your inherited stories, in the silence you kept as a child, in the ache behind your smile. When you stop chasing healing for others, when you begin to ask why you were so obsessed with fixing them, the answer that arises is uncomfortable and sacred. You were not rescuing them. You were trying to rescue the part of yourself they resembled. The empath's heart, when unconscious, becomes a graveyard of projections, not out of malice, but out of longing. The longing to be mirrored, the longing to be chosen, the longing to be held with the same depth that you hold others. And when that longing is unacknowledged, it becomes a magnet not for love, but for replication. And so you attract the ones who hurt like you do, hoping that if you can save them, some ancient part of you will be redeemed in the process. But no one can carry your childhood. No one can bleed out your ancestral silence. No one can mother the part of you that your own mother could not touch. Only you. And so we descend again. This time deeper, not into their pain, but into yours, the pain you mask behind constant giving, the exhaustion you confuse with duty, the loneliness you dress up as independence. What if you were not born to hold everyone else? What if your empathy is not a job? Buddha Kompas, what if it was never about saving the broken, but about noticing how deeply you'd abandon the broken within you? You see, the unconscious speaks in patterns. It repeats, not to punish, but to reveal. And every relationship that drained you, every broken soul that drained your life force, was echoing a lesson you were not yet ready to learn. That love is not the absence of boundaries. That compassion without self-awareness becomes martyrdom. That your wound is not your wisdom until you've walked through it without looking away. I met many empaths in my lifetime who lived in cycles of heartbreak, always loving, always giving, always ending up empty. And I told them, not with cruelty, but with care. You are not unlucky. You are unconscious. Your pattern is your unconscious screaming. Your exhaustion is your soul's protest. Your heartbreak is not noble. It is evidence that you've abandoned your own center. But when you finally see this, when you feel the rage beneath your tenderness, when you feel the ache beneath your healing, when you admit you want to be loved as much as you love, then the door opens. Then the projection dissolves. Then you begin to see not who you want people to be, but who they truly are. And that clarity, it changes everything. The broken soul who once intoxicated you now repels you. The dynamic that once felt romantic now feels toxic. The pattern that once seduced you now becomes transparent. You are no longer drawn in by suffering. You are moved by truth because you have seen your own shadow and it no longer controls you. You have integrated the archetypes that once ruled you unconsciously. The Savior who needed the helpless to feel holy, the martyr who confused pain with purpose, the orphan who called every wound a home. These are no longer your rulers. They are your guests, honored, seen, but not in control. And in this space, this sacred clearing where shadow and self sit side by side, you begin to choose again. This time from clarity, this time from sovereignty, this time from the part of you that no longer needs to be needed in order to exist. And what comes to you now will be different. It might be quieter. It may feel unfamiliar, even boring at first, because drama was once your compass, but it will be true. It will meet you in the place you fought to reclaim. And it will not ask you to shrink or serve or sacrifice your soul for belonging. It will ask only this: will you stay true to yourself? Even when no one needs saving, will you allow love in? Even when it does not wound, will you belong to your own being? Even when the world still calls your depth too much? This is the great turning, when the empath ceases to bleed for the broken and begins to burn for the true, when the soul no longer confuses compassion with codependency, when the unconscious no longer selects pain as the only doorway to intimacy. And yes, the path here is lonely at first. The silence after you've stopped rescuing can feel deafening. You will wonder, where is everyone now that I have nothing to give them but my presence? But do not mistake the quiet for abandonment. It is gestation. You are no longer performing your worth. You are letting it breathe. Let it breathe. Let yourself breathe. Let the light and the shadow hold hands inside your chest. You are no longer broken. You are no longer a magnet for pain. You are a mirror for the sacred. And the broken souls you once attracted will still come, but now they will feel something different in your presence. Not a soft space to collapse, but the fierce invitation to rise. Some will leave, some will transform, but you will remain whole. You are whole now, not because you have never broken, but because you have gathered every broken piece and dare to name it sacred. Not because you no longer feel others' pain, but because you have learned to feel your own first, and not because your shadow has vanished, but because it now walks beside you, no longer an enemy, but an elder. The empath, once lost in the tides of others, now becomes an island of stillness. Not to isolate, but to ground, no longer absorbing every emotion in the room, but witnessing them no longer offering your soul in exchange for love, but bringing your soul with you into love. You have crossed the threshold. The rescuer has become the rememberer. The fixer has become the knower. The open wound has become the open eye. And from here, you begin to see what you could not see before. That love was never meant to hurt this much. That compassion does not require collapse. That empathy is a gift, but only when rooted in self-respect. You see now that it was not your destiny to carry broken souls across their oceans, but to light beacons on your shore, so that they might find their own way. If they choose, you are no longer the boat. You are the lighthouse. This is what the integrated empath becomes: a beacon, a source, not a savior, not a sponge, a presence. Others feel your light, but they cannot take it unless they too are willing to awaken. This is the boundary of sacred resonance. You are no longer the rescuer, you are the reminder, and in this you will meet those you could never meet before. Souls who are not attracted to your bleeding, but to your clarity. Souls who do not mistake your depth for weakness, but recognize it as royalty. Souls who come not to be saved, but to walk beside you, whole unto themselves. You see, when your unconscious no longer seeks healing through others, it creates space for the soul to enter. And the soul, once invited, brings not only peace but purpose. A purpose that is no longer about others, but about your own becoming. The empath, once addicted to pain, now becomes devoted to truth. And this truth is not loud. It is not popular, but it is unshakable, because it is born of integration, not performance. I tell you now, as one who has walked with shadows and danced with symbols, your life is a myth. Every relationship was a message, every heartbreak a rite of passage, every why me was the soul whispering. This is how you will return to yourself. The broken souls were never punishment, they were mirrors. And now that you have seen what they were reflecting, you no longer need to repeat the pattern. The spiral has turned, the wound has spoken, the light has entered, but this is not the end. This is individuation, the sacred unfolding of the true self, not the persona, not the projection, but the eternal flame that has always waited beneath your name. And the empath, once fragmented by the world's demands, now becomes whole by the soul's decree. Individuation does not mean isolation. It means union of all parts, light and shadow, past and present, self and self. It means you are no longer looking for someone to complete you. You are looking for someone who can witness your completion. And when you live from this place, you will find that the world begins to respond differently. Not because it has changed, but because you have the outer reflects the inner. The archetypal wheel turns not outside of you, but through you. And now that you are no longer spinning in unconscious longing, you are free to walk with intention, with knowing, with sovereignty. Yes, there will still be pain. Yes, there will still be broken souls who try to enter, but you will see them now, not as saviors see, but as seers do. You will meet them with presence, not with absorption. You will offer love, but not your life. You will listen, but you will not lose yourself. And this is the gift of the empath who has integrated the shadow, the ability to love without leaving oneself, to serve without becoming enslaved, to feel deeply without falling apart, to give fully without growing empty. You were never meant to drown in their wounds. You were meant to remember yours, to touch them, to tend to them, to love them as sacred instructions, and then to rise. And now you have, and now the broken souls will knock, but they will not stay. They will feel your light and recognize their own possibility. Some will rise, some will run, but you will remain rooted, because you are no longer looking for home in another. You have returned to the only home that ever existed, yourself. And from here, everything begins again, not in suffering, but in sacred clarity. This is your shadow revelation, and now you are free.